All right. This is February 20th, 2024, um, Tuesday morning. People are still arriving, so we have to click them in. Welcome. Um, we'll do a 20-minute sit and we'll see what happens next. Don't like to get ahead of ourselves. There are some people still arriving, so I'm holding off starting the official. You can start meditating without me. You don't need me, but just, I'm keeping my eyes open for a couple minutes to click people in. All right, so just settling back into a comfortable meditation posture, whatever supports your calm and clarity. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze, turning the attention inward. And initially, just turning the attention to the body, to how you're holding your body, the posture and balance, alignment. And noticing areas of tension or strong sensations and relaxing around the tension. Maybe taking some time to explore any stronger sensations, breathing with the sensations. That means being aware of the breath and the sensations at the same time, breathing with. In this way, the breath helps us to stay grounded and in the present moment as we explore the body. We can then also include awareness of the inner world, the mood or emotions. Again, breathing with them, grounded in the present moment, with the sense of openness and receptivity, accepting whatever is arising with the calm, peaceful attitude. And the breath is generally a neutral experience for us. So whatever else is happening in the body and mind, we have this place to go to. It's not disturbing in any way. And when the attention gathers around it, there's a natural settling that happens, reminding us in the sense that even when there is disturbance, that there is also this realm of peace, of simplicity, of presence. But we hang on to that as our refuge. And we can pay particular attention to thoughts. First, just the reality of thoughts happening so that we can notice thinking and let go. And also to see what the quality of thoughts we're having is. These are constructions of the mind. There are sometimes attempts to describe reality, other times to create reality, to imagine a reality, but they are not reality. No part of our job or process in mindfulness is to deconstruct these forms that appear, to see into them. We can apply the traditional insights to see their impermanent nature. We can think completely different thoughts at different times. Can, we can think or believe contradictory thoughts. So seeing that they are changing all the time, unstable, and seeing their unsatisfactory nature, they can't bring us resolution of suffering, only keep us spinning. And then the insight into self, these thoughts create this illusion of self, that there is no thing there to point to, no person who is thinking. There is just thinking, the construction of thinking and the end of thinking. And this is why the breath is such a beautiful refuge, because it is uncomplicated, unlike these thoughts. When lost or confused, can simply return to breathing in, breathing out. Let go of problem solving, judging, analyzing. All right. Well, um, I actually I'm going to go off topic for a moment, and and I'll come back. But I was reading my wife tells me we should stop getting the actual newspaper, but she likes to read it on her iPad or something, and I like to actually have the newspaper. So I was reading I mean, I grew up, this is my background, We got the New York Times every morning, and every evening we got the Bethlehem Globe Times. My father would sit on the couch, he would have a chiclet, and he would read the Bethlehem Globe Times at night. And then you would go to him and say, "Can I have a chiclet?" That was like your thrilling event of the evening. In any case, not to get too nostalgic. Um, so I was reading the paper, and reading the paper, and so I'm going to talk about politics, and I'm sorry if that disturbs anybody, but deal with it. Um, and there were two articles about Alexei Navalny, one about him and his imprisonment and his communications out of prison. Um, and it goes without saying that he was living in horrible, horrible circumstances, and he was murdered, by maybe the most evil autocrat in the world. And and then the other article was about his wife, who's like, okay, well, and she was always keeping like a low profile. Uh, and now she's like, well, all right, I'm just kind of step up now, incredibly courageous. And then the other article was about how like tired Democrats are of of fighting with, of hating Donald Trump and sort of the implication being, oh, like, oh, well, I don't know, it's too much trouble to vote. I was saying to my wife, yeah, it's so hard. You have to like, check, write a little check on a piece of paper. Like, gee, I don't know, it's too much trouble. It's not worth it. Forget it. And the comparison in my mind, of course, being, well, you could have this, you could have Russia, or you could have something resembling, an imperfect democracy. So anyway, that's, you know, so please, I don't care how exhausted you are, you can still vote, at least. Anyway, so I will go back on topic as my job here. My daughter tells me I'm semi-retired. She was telling me yesterday, you're semi-retired. I was like, I'm not even semi-retired. I was working all day Sunday. Anyway, my job, I think, I don't know what it is really. Something to do with, it's kind of complicated, right? Recovery, Dharma, meditation. Uh, I think my job is to write books. The rest of it's just hanging out. And I'm terribly lazy about the hanging out part, and I apologize for not being a more disciplined teacher. Uh, I guess I hope and sort of trust that spontaneous reflections um, can be just as valuable as some prepared Dharma talk, and certainly my reflections go on continuously. So when I arrive in front of the computer, it's just what's the reflection that's there right now, and so I kind of I'll go to what I was saying in the meditation. Again, so many of you, and your faces. Some of you I really don't know at all, but but I feel like, I've been hanging out with you a lot. I do wish you could all come here. I was going to say we could get together, but I don't want to, you have to come here. Anyway, you know, my meditation guidance is even more sort of spontaneous than ever in these classes because it's just like, I just come down, I just had breakfast. I mean, I sit beforehand, I sit after I get up. I get up, I shower, I sit, and and then I have breakfast, and then I come back here, and so um, just whatever kind of comes to mind, and it's the themes are pretty consistent. Um, but there's kind of uh, I guess I'd say a kind of code that if you know the code, then you can follow what I'm saying. But if you don't, you might be a little confused, like what are we doing here? Um, and really, the code is the four foundations of mindfulness, or the Anapanasati Sutta, meaning that it's the breath and the body, and the breath and the feelings, the breath and the mind, and the breath and insights. And so I said explicitly this morning, breathing with means, because I use that term a lot, breathing with, and I realize that if you don't sort of aren't familiar with that term, that could be very confusing. I don't know what I'm breathing with something. So it was actually, I hope, helpful. It was helpful to me because it was like, oh, that's a pretty simple way of explaining that. Breathing with means being aware of the breath and something else at the same time, right? So when you're breathing with the body, means that you're feeling your body breathe. You're feeling the breathing in some way, and we can talk about what that means. And then you're feeling the body, the whole body, and that feeling the body, I think that's a that's something we have to learn to do, right? And when people, I don't know how. I know that some of you are very experienced meditators, and some of you may not be, and so if you're not so experienced, it can take a while to even sort of learn to be aware of your body. Um, so it's hard to almost really to describe what that means. Like it's this, I think of it as kind of in spatial terms, that I'm kind of being aware of this whole space of this body. And then, you know, certain sensations might kind of stand out, but it's more like a sense of this whole organism. And it's kind of like there are little sparks, or going off, that you're kind of aware, oh yeah, my feet, my arms, my stomach, but you're not even naming those things. You're just aware of these different things happening in this space, this awareness, this space of awareness of body. Strictly speaking, at least this is what I've been taught, uh, you can't be aware of two things at the same time. So, I mean, this is, again, sort of a Buddhist psychology, Buddhist science, I guess. So when we say being aware of the breath and the body at the same time, what we're really saying is that we're very quickly going back and forth between the two, and you're generally not going to really be aware of the alternation. It's more like it seems as though you're aware of them both at the same time, but it's not actually happening. So I don't think that's particularly important, um, unless you're getting disturbed by the fact that you're not feeling both at the same time. It's okay. Um, so so the way I kind of view this process, this sort of four foundations of mindfulness process, is that it's the the objects of awareness, the things we're paying attention to, become increasingly subtle. So when we begin to meditate, I mean, this happens to me pretty much every day when I do my morning sit. Everything's just like blah, just a mess, like kind of, and it's hard to pick out anything very subtle. It's just like, okay, I'm breathing. Okay, I'm just sitting here, but mostly I'm spacing out. But, I keep coming back to my breath, and gradually things settle a little bit, and I'm able to, okay, now I can feel my body. Okay, that's good. And I'm feeling my breath. And then the feeling tone, that's the kind of technical term for the second foundation of mindfulness. And I think of it that doesn't really capture for me. I mean, that somewhat captures it, but really I just sort of call it like feeling and include emotions and which is, it's a hard area to define, but it's a felt experience, and it's more subtle than just the grossness of the body, but it also has a physical element to it. So I think of it as the feeling tone is kind of the bridge or the connector between body and mind. So mind is purely mental, it is purely consciousness, thoughts, mind states. There's no physical aspect to it. Body is purely body is, sort of, I'm being redundant here. Body is purely this material thing. And then feeling tone has this physical feeling quality to it, and it has a mental quality to it, which is, kind of what emotions are. All right. So as our mind starts to settle by just sitting, being quiet, trying to come back to the breath, coming back to the breath, having that centering object, we start to be able to tune into the subtle experience of the body, which already is somewhat subtle. As I say, when you first try to do this, it's like you can't even find body, what that means. But you start to be able to attune to that level, and it's like, oh, and which is a really nice place to get to, right? And it's really valuable. I mean, this is where things like yoga and qigong and other mindfulness based movement uh, forms are very satisfying, because we're just in our body, and there's a simplicity to that that's very gratifying, that takes us out of all our stuff, all the noise and agitation of the mind. So as that settles, then we can start, and the mind becomes more, the attention becomes more subtly attuned. We start to tune into this other level, the felt realm, the feeling realm, the Vedana. And now it's getting more subtle, right? You're breathing with that. And really, I don't think of it as like, oh, I moved from breathing with the body to breathing with feeling. I think of it as breathing with, being with the breath, breath with the body. And now I'm including feeling, but I'm not getting rid of body. Now I'm containing breath, body, and feeling. I don't know if that's right, but that's kind of how I experience it. And then as the feeling tone becomes more calmed and settled, because there can be a lot going on that level. It's very much an energetic level, and it can stir up thoughts, it can stir up physical sensations, it can make you restless, you can get caught up, it can stir up strong emotions that become difficult to hold, sadness that then triggers more thoughts and then more feelings and anxiety and all this stuff. So that's a a whole like swamp that we have to kind of move through and but there is this natural settling that happens, and if we stay with it and don't run from it and stay just keep it simple and engaged, then that starts to settle, and then we can attune to mind. And here, really, we're not talking so much about thoughts. Thoughts, I mean, obviously they're part of the mind, but when we're getting to this area of the third foundation of mindfulness, it's more like we're trying to be aware of awareness itself or the realm of consciousness. So the way I see that, and this is evolving, my understanding of this, not, um, well, anyway, the way I see it is that our first experience of mind is realizing that everything we've been experiencing is in this other container. That breath, body, and feeling are actually all only being known in mind. So that's on, in terms of a sort of shift of awareness, because each of these involves a kind of shifting of pointing, where we're pointing the awareness, right? We're pointing the awareness at the breath, then we're pointing the awareness at the body and the breath, then we're pointing the awareness at the feeling and the breath. And now we're pointing our awareness at the container of experience. And so that's a simple way to me, simple enough anyway, relatively, of kind of going, oh, okay, right. And it's almost just a knowing and understanding, oh yeah, this is just all happening in the container. Then what we are sort of being pointed to is to become more shift from awareness of the objects in the container to the container itself, which is we could is simply called space of mind is how I characterize it. Others call it awareness itself, uh, sati sampajana. Um, and and so now we're seeing that what we experience as this limited uh, set of um, mind and body. The word experiences, I'm going to be redundant here, but what we think of or uh, conceive of as this kind of package of experience, which is, also really just our package of self, but it's like, oh, body, feelings, and thoughts, and, uh, this is kind of me, and then realizing, oh, wait, no, there's like this, what sometimes referred to as emptiness, right? That this awareness, this space of mind is just space. It, I mean, awareness itself is just this container, and the delusion of self and the illusion of self are that the things in the container are self. And the suggestion of Dharma is that if you are able to, if you keep looking, you will see that that's just stuff in an empty container. In it, like, any container has stuff in it, but the container itself is not the stuff. So Joseph Goldstein talks about this in his Big Mind meditation, where he says, mind contains all things, but it is not made up of them. Mind contains all things, but is not made up of those things. So mind is something else. And if you get to this, things are starting to get real, right? In a very unreal way, shall we say. And no, and here's where the Anapanasati Sutta points us in to very specific things, and it's kind of odd. If and again, I know some of you are familiar with these suttas, and some of you are not so much, I presume. So the Satipatthana Sutta is the sutta on the four foundations of mindfulness. The Anapanasati Sutta is the sutta on mindfulness of breathing. And it is said or suggested that the Anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing sutta, kind of came after the Satipatthana in terms of how the Buddha presented things. But that the Anapanasati parallels the four foundations of mindfulness. So it has these four sections. It's more of a meditation instruction, and it's very specific. And I'm writing a book on this, so we'll see if it ever comes out. But so I'm like, there's a lot I can say about it because I've been not just writing about it, but reading about it and thinking about it for a couple of years. But what I'm getting at is the fourth foundation of mindfulness, which is defined in extremely vague and unhelpful terms, sometimes as phenomena, which like whatever. And Analio doesn't even translate it. It's dhammas, which is just, truths or natural laws. So when you get to it in the four foundations, Analio says, well, because he studied this. So Analio is this Buddhist monk who's a scholar, is really analyzing all the ancient teachings, but not just the Satipatthana, but like the Chinese version of it. And so he's analyzed these parallel versions and has arrived at the idea that really what we can really define as the keys to the fourth foundation of mindfulness are being aware of the seven factors of awakening and the five hindrances. And so these are sort of contrasting aspects of experience. The awakening factors are the, illuminating elements, and the hindrances are the blockages or the things that get in the way of illuminating. So he's saying, like, here now, all this awareness that you've developed through working through body, feeling, and mind, you want to point it towards these things. Now, how to do that, well, that's maybe a subject for another time because I don't really have an answer, but I could riff on it. The Anapanasati points us toward different things for the fourth foundation. So this is why what I'm kind of getting at, that this becomes confusing if we're trying to figure out, well, what are we supposed to do with all this? What's the Buddha say? In the Anapanasati, the Buddha says four very specific things. He says, and all of these things are to be done with the breath. I'm just going to say you're breathing in, breathing out, contemplate impermanence, contemplate fading away of passion, contemplate cessation, and contemplate letting go. Now, again, these are very like difficult ideas to understand because even if we take, well, fundamentally because, did I say that right? Contemplate impermanence. Did I say that? I feel like I didn't say that. Contemplate impermanence. Okay. Impermanence, fading away, cessation, and letting go. It, when you start to be like, okay, I'm meditating. Okay, contemplating impermanence. Okay, I can do that. I can watch the impermanent nature of things that are happening. Contemplating fading away. What? What am I? What? And so when you look at it and you, again, like the study I've done, it's like you're supposed to like be aware of how now your passions, uh, your, your basically your craving is fading away. Okay, good. Sounds good. And then contemplating cessation. Oh, that's completely something else. Uh, and so we can't really take these things literally. We have to look at a lot of commentary to get an idea what's happening here. So I'm pretty much a washout on doing these things. I mean, I've worked with them and tried to sort of develop strategies for working with these. But I think that what, well, let me back up a little bit and say that after working with with the Anapanasati Sutta, and particularly that was my focus in the fall on my 6-week retreat, I concluded that it wasn't really instructions on how to meditate, but rather a description of what will happen if you keep paying attention to the breath. If you just stay mindful of the breath, you will, and you will naturally start to feel your body, start to feel feelings, start to be aware of the mind. And then what comes out of that will be this kind of insight but experience of seeing things, the impermanence of all things, and that you'll then see, then you will, if you are doing it enough and you're being uh, you get kind of carried by this, and that there will be this fading away, and there will be a sense of cessation, which is basically like the sense of like everything stops, right? Just everything stops. And there are some beautiful, there is some beautiful language. I might have read this. I read this sometime recently. I think it might have been with the loving kindness course, but let's see this. One of the notes I took on on this retreat uh, was this quote about cessation, and but it may take me a moment to find it. It may take me more than a moment to find it. Let's see. It's got gone past it. It's weird. It's, writing notes on a retreat is always a risky thing. Kind of like, writing down notes when you're on acid. Yeah. Sure, that makes sense. What? Um, so, in any case, I know I found it last week, so I should be able to find it again. Um, it is about the sublime quality of this stillness. Um, well, anyway, so this is, I'm now acting out emptiness, the empty nature of trying to find something. Um, so anyway, I'll let it go. But cessation is this level of sort of ultimate peace, and that's again not something like when you read, if you read the sutta as instruction, you're like, okay, now everything's supposed to stop. now I need to stop everything. I was like, no, that's not how it works. Like I don't have like a mechanism for doing this. It's really this um, uh, immersion, allowing myself to be immersed in this experience and surrendering into it, deep, deep surrender. I mean, this is what it on a fundamental level, it is uh, taking refuge in the Dharma, you know, and just being that there is this need, and this is to me, I think, maybe the greatest challenge, that there has to be complete faith in the process. Because in order to let go on the level you have to let go, you have to completely trust in the Dharma. Because you're letting go of everything that protects you, uh, protects your ego. And this is what I've said for a long time about the difference between a lay person, and particularly for myself, and a monastic, is that for a monastic, they have more faith. They have complete faith in the Buddha because they're willing to give up all of ordinary li lay life, all the things that we consider to be freedom. They give up all that, no control anymore. You know. So the monastic life is the external version of what I'm talking about. But the meditative experience is this completely letting go of control, uh, and which is why there are some of the commentaries describe certain of these stages uh, around impermanence to be horrifying, and to be panic inducing, you know, and people sometimes kind of lose it at this stage. This kind of intensive meditation practice is not risk-free. Uh, um, so anyway, that was there you go. There's this morning's rant. Um, so I'm here for a little while. Technically we have 2 minutes left. So I know some people can only hang out for an hour, or maybe you can only stand an hour of this. But if there's any comments or thoughts anyone wants to add in here, you are invited to do so. Hi, Anne, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Hi, everybody. I'm just what you just last said. This has been so deep. A lot there. Um, but what the stages of impermanence? Um, is where is that written?
Well, really, I'm really referring to like the progress of insight,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no,
which is, has never, I've never been able to really relate to that. I find it too esoteric.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, no, because I've been having something coming up lately, is this in my life in a meditation, but my relationship to my inner critic. I've been sort of turning the rock over a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I had this um incidence of when I woke up the other morning. I mean, I realized I wake up with this little engine inside. It feels like it's in my brain. And not only does it's like, oh, you got to go do this now. It's the same thing that runs the critical thing. Like, oh, you got to do this. You should have done that, or I wish I shouldn't have said that, or people are going to think of me, all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. But anyway, I realized that, oh my God, and I've had these experiences of cessation before, but like, oh my God, it's like, this is with me. I can't say things like, "Oh, I wish this was all gonna go away. Why is this still here? I'm so tired of it." It's so sadness, so much grief, and, I realized that this is gonna be here. The only thing left to do is sort of embrace it. It sounds so simple, and, I mean, this is all about self-compassion too, but the more I, immerse myself in the Dharma and the teachings and practice, I have glimpses of kinda insight like that, and it's very relieving. It feels good to be kind to
Mm.
myself, and that's what's gonna if I can have mindfulness come online more often to say, "Yeah, just okay, it's okay." None of this stuff is new. It's a revelation I've had
Yeah,
the last few
yeah,
days.
no, I know. I mean, it's really like these just very subtle shifts that we have to make. I mean, once we're as to some degree trained in this, then and we're caught again,
Mhm.
then sometimes it's just a really subtle like, oh
Mhm.
right, and and a lot can be lifted in that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I and it's all empty. I mean, those deeper layers of impermanence, it is scary to, like, let go. Like, everything is arising and everything is passing away, all at the same
right. Yeah.
you know? I mean, you get into that on longer retreats and stuff, but yeah, wow. It's, yeah, but I'm being held. I mean, I feel there's the container there, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Kevin. Um,
Hello.
my name is Maria. You can see that.
Oh
And
yeah. Hi, Maria.
I'm from New York. And I recently am studying your book, A Breath at a Time. And I done Vipassana. I sit in Vipassana as much as I can. And I'm just trying to go back to where I was in the past, on a place where there's a space that, like we discussed, of protected and safe. And as I was emerging and meditating with you guys, first I saw red light colors, and then I became totally abandoned on this blue light that it helped me ground and let all my thoughts go. And the result is that I feel so much lighter now. And I'm very grateful for this meeting. I'm so happy I found you guys.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Maria. You are welcome. Yeah, I kind of I this is supposed to have something to do with recovery, so I did not really get into that today. So for those who came for that, I apologize. My view is that this is always tied up uh, with addiction because our kind of primal addiction is addiction to self, and then grasping after desire and avoiding uh, pain and uh, all of that is what addiction is about. And this practice is it kind of throws us into the middle of that in our own mind to just feel our own craving, our own aversion, our restlessness, resentments, and all of that. And so it's really a practice that addresses head on all the underlying components of addiction. And so, in case anybody forgot, just a reminder that you know, and for me, you know, that's uh, that's the bottom line of everything for me is that you know, if I stay sober, uh, and maintain sila, that no matter what's happening in my meditation, I'm okay. So I will leave you with that. Oh, sorry, I was looking away as I reflected, but okay, guys, go ahead. I don't have anywhere to go. Steve, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Just wanted to share a couple things. I remember, especially when you started talking about addiction, and most everybody that comes to these meetings regularly knows that I've really struggled with my food addiction, and I've been working the 12-step program around that particular addiction for so long. We had a lot of success with my drinking and drugging, but I wanted to go back to the first retreat I went on, and I was so enthusiastic about finally finding something that made a lot of sense to me, the Dharma, which is so I got all enthusiastic after reading all your books, and then after the first retreat, I ran out and bought Analayo's Satipatthana Sutta, and I bought
Oh,
the Bhikkhu Bodhi's Eightfold Path. I bought the Joseph Goldstein's Mindfulness, and so I finally finished the mindfulness book because I was reading Satipatthana Sutta and it was like so far over my. And you warned me. You said, take it easy. This stuff is going to be a little intense for you to start studying. And I have to say that after reading, it's taken me 2 years to get through mindfulness.
yeah.
And I can only say is that because I'm looking forward to the retreat and all kinds of little lights are going off now. I picked up that book again, and it took me almost 2 years to get through it all. And I started reading the Satipatthana Sutta. So when you started talking about the Anapanasati Sutta, all I can say is that the practice, just sitting I had 380 something days in a row where I've sat for an hour. And I can't start my day without my 1 hour sit at 4:30 in the morning. I just can't. But it's all these little lights and bells are going off now because it's all making so much sense to me. There's a lot of clarity. And when I listen to what you were talking about today, I'm seeing where all of this stuff that I'm understanding now is going to benefit me in my food addiction because of the truth. The truth is, I can't go to where I want to go. I can't be where I want to be when I'm indulging in my primary drug, which is
Mm.
food. So I'm experiencing some real recovery around that, and I just wanted to share that with you. It's really starting to make total sense to me, and it's wonderful to know.
Good.
Thank you
Wow.
for letting me share that.
Yeah, that's delightful. Thank you, Steve. It definitely, those kind of books are not things to be swallowed in one gulp. You know, they definitely take a lot of time to get through.
Right. Well, my addict brain tells me just get through it all, and everything will be okay. But that's not how it works.
No, it doesn't. John, you had your hand up. You don't want to speak? You put it back down. Go ahead. Find the unmute button. It says the host isn't allowing you to unmute yourself. Well, this is telling me that to ask you to unmute. It's very strange. Let me see if I can,
I just unmuted.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have any power to unmute you. All right, next time. Thank you. All right, folks. Yes, I will be back next Tuesday. Some of you will be with me this afternoon for the final living kindness class. And so enjoy.
Kevin, can you hang for a minute with me after the class? I have a question for you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. See you
All
later.
right, Mike.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm gonna stop the recording now.
Yeah, good idea.